Okay, describe your Christmas in one word.
Over.
It's a happy new Tom Shires.
And a merry Mike Island.
And
Still Christmas.
Still Christmas. Not. This is the Shires and Ireland agenda about movies and more. On More Music Variety, HWD, Hospital Radio, and also on YouTube on the Shires and Ireland network that's got a very fancy new logo.
It does. Look at it. So coming up on
the logo,
coming up on today's show, we've got all your favourites, including the big three stories from the world of film, and also if you like your streaming services that aren't Amazon or Hulu, which we're going to be talking about, we've got a bit about that as well.
Should old acquaintance be forgot? No, otherwise we'd have no friends. Mike is renewed in our quiz may contain spoilers.
Listen to the show.
Now it's time for this week's Big Three. Slight hangover, if you will, from the Christmas period. Not of an alcoholic kind. Both still teetotaler?
Well, I have.
You've got a bit of tipple?
No, I have Christmas cake, which has got brandy in it, and I have sherry trifle. It's the lovely sherry trifle on Boxing Day.
You get a bit wobbly?
The trifle was soggy more than anything else, but I like it that way.
All right, what are we doing again?
I've got no idea.
Marvel. Oh yeah, so hangover from the Christmas period, and that is because the trailer for Avengers Endgame, spoiler alert I suppose as regards the title, hit just before the festive period. We went on a festive break, so we've not had that discussion, but no doubt whatsoever that Marvel is going to have a huge 2019.
Yes, and a pair of surveys revealed in the last couple of days that it is the I was going to say, what's Marvel's sort of tagline?
Or for the for the universe?
Well, for the cinematic universe, for Marvel sort of comics, the House of Ideas, I think.
Is it?
I think it is, yeah. It's the House of Ideas that takes a number of the top spots, including the very top spot. Avengers Endgame, the fourth one in the Avengers series, is the most anticipated blockbuster according to the ticketing service Fandango, and came second place in the list of page view rankings of IMDb users. Well, Captain Marvel placed first on the IMDb list and second in the Fandango ratings.
Endgame, officially the most viewed trailer of all time, is that correct?
Is it? Okay, so because didn't Lion King take it and then Endgame gazumps Simba and friends? I
believe so. Do you want to speak about the content of that trailer very briefly?
I haven't seen it, so you can...
I won't say too much, other than, obviously continuing from the events of Infinity War, Tony Stark is cut adrift in space. He is effectively... He's not reading his last will and testament, but he's having a conversation, one-sided, obviously, with Pepper Potts through his Iron Man helmet.
Okay.
Creating a recording that will be found when he sadly expires because he's on very limited time. Then we get shots of Thanos having hung up his armour because I guess the war is won.
Why does he need it?
Exactly, as far as he's concerned.
He wants to relax. Has he got a dressing gown?
He's just chilling in a field.
What goes with purple?
Green.
You think that's what it should be?
Yeah. Too jokery though. And he's not known for his laughs. And then we have shots of Hawkeye, who's now assumed his Ronin persona. Is that correct? Is it Ronin?
The Keanu Reeves film.
Is he called Ronin? Is that what he's kind of when he goes he goes a bit edgy? He's got a very nice sword as well. And then we also have probably the biggest moment in the trailer, and this is a bit of a spoiler alert, is that someone arrived at the Avengers compound who couldn't possibly be there. And Black Widow asks, he wishes, is this an old recording? And they say, no, this is happening right now. Because there's a character who in a solo outing is, not Han Solo outing, but a character who is, let's put it this way, between worlds, who then shows up at the Avengers front door.
Oh, okay. I know.
He's only a little fella.
I know which character you're on about. You're on about the Atom. Right then. Are you surprised, by the way? It's the end of the Star Wars trilogy, the new Star Wars trilogy. Doesn't get a look in.
As far as the trailer hasn't dropped yet?
Well, not as far as the trailer hasn't dropped yet, in terms of most anticipated films.
Yeah.
I'd have thought, if you're rounding off the Star Wars trilogy that is the new Star Wars trilogy that shows what happened to Han and Leia and Luke, why isn't that the most anticipated film of the year? Is it simply that Marvel have built up such momentum
I think so, and also it's just popular opinion, isn't it? I think these very populist sites, there was a lot of hate, which I think was unnecessary out there for The Last Jedi, which I thought was a necessarily different Star Wars film. But you've got to admit that of the films coming out this year, I'm more excited about Endgame than I am about Star Wars. And I don't think there's much in it, but I think for
about 2.5 hours.
I think I'm just more excited to see how one story ends rather than another. But a lot of news this week about Carrie Fisher and the unused footage from Force Awakens and Last Jedi and how that will appear as a natural performance if it was supposed to be there.
What do you think?
I'm intrigued by that.
What do you think about that? First off, on a sort of...
moral level?
Yeah, moral, ethical. Is it appropriate, even if the family have approved? If the actor hasn't approved it, does the studio have the right?
I think because of the kind of legacy of the character and the fact that the material exists, it's almost doing justice to that character and that actor to have a resolution to that story, I feel personally.
Now, we don't know because we obviously haven't seen the material, but how can that material possibly help wrap up the story when it was material that was supposed to be in the first, and maybe there's some from Last Jedi as well, of this new trilogy?
I almost had this kind of
badly dubbed
fantasy in my head the other day where J.J. Abrams was kind of sat there and people were saying, what are we going to do with all this stuff? You know, we've got all this B-roll, effectively, that didn't make it into the previous two films. And I can just imagine J.J. Abrams just going, you know what? I'm a creative person. We're creative people. We can do this. And I genuinely believe that he is a modern-day artist who will craft something really quite poignant and beautiful out of what remains.
Okay, just to pick out on some of the other films in the 2019 most anticipated list, Spider-Man Far From Home comes in at number 4 on the Fandango one after episode 9. Toy Story, Glass.
Oh yes.
Are you excited? Are you excited about the anticipation that there seems to be? It's only the third film in this series that wasn't even a series until...
It was a secret series, wasn't it?
It was a secret series, yeah. So has M. Night Shyamalan gone about it the right way?
I think so, in that we've seen it the other way, where a forced franchise from DC,
yeah.
We've seen Marvel do it in a really good way where it's been laid out, and this guy, as he always does, has just kind of crept up and boom!
Lion King, Aladdin, Dumbo and Joker rounding out Fandango's list. IMDb, sorry, that was for most anticipated blockbuster. For most anticipated new standalone comic book movie, Captain Marvel comes in at number 1. Dark Phoenix comes in at number 3.
Really?
How is that
That's out this year?
How is that? Yeah, well, yeah, that's out this year, but how is that standalone?
Oh yeah, I see what I mean. That it's the culmination of, it's not quite a trilogy, is it now? For what was it? First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse.
Oh yeah,
it's the fourth one. It's the quadrilogy, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't see how that one works. Most anticipated animated movie, Toy Story 4. Also, a lot of recommendations for How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. I think early reviews.
He's got a beard, hasn't he? Not the dragon, the kid.
Okay. And most anticipated horror thriller, It Chapter 2 comes in very highly indeed, and also. Us is number 2 on that.
We're on there. Where are we?
We're at number 2 in the most anticipated horror thriller, which I think is a good. I think it's a good placing.
Be very afraid. This show was still on telly, at least in recent history. It wasn't something that I actively watched. Definitely when my brother was at home when we were younger, this was staple viewing. I guess because the outlets for that information were fewer. The internet was in its infancy as regards movie sites.
Sky hasn't taken over the world yet.
Absolutely, that's also true. So it became a focal point of, it would be late on a night, we'd record it on video, which shows the age, and then we'd...
Whoa. By the way...
Is the part here?
No, worse.
Go on.
The auxiliary...
China no longer exists.
Well, I was going to say better. The auxiliary is down.
And you've got a backup for your backup, though. You're a man with the plan.
I don't. And the auxiliary went down 1 hour, 60 minutes before Doctor Who's New Year's Day special.
Oh,
so for the first time,
no resolution for you then.
So for the very clever. So for the first
time, poor resolution on the screen, it's probably just like flickering if anything.
For the first time in 13 years, haven't been able to tape it.
There's an adventure. Have you heard of iPlayer?
I'm able to watch things, but I like to have the VHS
physicality of knowing that it's on there.
Yeah.
And if you could take the reel out and you could play it very quickly in your own hands.
Yes, I'm now going to have to chase up Malcolm.
What's this link about again?
I've got no idea. You were talking about film, question mark.
Oh, yeah. So film, 1999, 2000, what it would have been back in the day, was a huge part of our lives. Sadly, after it changed hands from Barry Norman, I think it lost a lot of, obviously, its credence and credibility. I just never bought Winkleman. Never.
You didn't mind Jonathan Ross?
Jonathan Ross was palatable. Not my choice, but I can live with Jonathan Ross.
Okay, I don't know whether he's got the room.
Winkleman, I don't want you in my house.
I assumed you were going after Jonathan Ross's, and therefore would be going around to.
No, he's coming to mind.
Okay, I think you've hit the nail on the head. In that we now have a profusion of sites and some YouTube videos that talk about film news.
Do you not think it's a slight coincidence that this show has begun and that show's ended?
I think it's more than a coincidence. I think it's a downright conspiracy. But viewing habits have changed, and people tend to go to what they want to listen to. They want to listen to people like them, or people that they think they're like, talking about the type of films that they like. A general film review show, therefore, has less appeal now, ironically.
Do you feel also that film at times got a little bit highbrow, or tried to be a little bit highbrow, and maybe the kind of films that, the bigger audience perhaps wants to know about are going to be either not featured on that kind of show or seen with some kind of derision?
I think it's, again, it is stuck trying to aim actually for the middle, in that if you talk about the big blockbusters that are out in the summer, and one of the weirdest things about the film show was that it didn't broadcast during the summer. When the big films came out, not on air.
He was too busy watching them and then not reporting them.
But if they talked about those, the people that want sort of high-end reviews are going to think, well, this is dumbing down, it's not for us. If you don't talk about those films, people think, well, why should I listen to it? Because they're not talking about the films that people are going to go and see.
Yeah, dumbing down. It's like, if anything, we should be dumbing up.
Dumbo out this year, by the way. So yeah, it's going to be a shame, but I suppose things change. The BBC are pushing people towards the film review presented by Mark Commode on the BBC News channel each week, and also the film programme, which is on weekly on BBC Radio 4.
Is that the corporation basically admitting that better shows are out there, so why do we need to keep pumping money into something that would be actually inferior?
Have they got a logo like our one? And we're going to close out the big three news stories this week by recognising the achievements of three greats from the world of entertainment who have passed away in recent days. Dame June Whitfield died at the age of 93. And of course is most known to contemporary audiences perhaps as the mother of Jennifer Saunders' character in Absolutely Fabulous, but she got a career going right back to the 1950s on the radio as well as on TV. I think she'd been in something like 1,300 different radio and television shows and worked with some of the absolute greats of British comedy.
Was she ever in Carry On?
Yes, she was in a few Carry Ons. She was definitely in Carry On Girls. She was in Carry On Columbus. I think she was in a few other ones as well. But yeah, she'd worked with the likes of Tony Hancock, Frankie Howerd, Ronnie Barker, Benny Hill, Bob Monkhouse, Tommy Cooper, and of course for many years she worked opposite Terry Scott on the sitcom Terry and June, in which they played a married couple. It was on for I think about 8 series over 13 years, and was huge in terms of ratings, never especially popular with the critics. But no, June Whitfield...
What do they know?
June Whitfield was hailed for her sort of precision of performance, and I do think that's a really good way of describing, because if you watch performances, it's the sort of the ultimate professional. She could always hit the mark and do exactly what the line required, and then some. So yes, great achievements, and she will be sorely missed, and working right up until the end, it's worth pointing out. Moving on to Norman Gimbel, who won Oscars and Grammys for his work as a lyricist, passing away at the age of 91. Killing Me Softly was something that he...
Yeah, interesting. When I read the name, when I was reading through the notes for the show, which I actually do, didn't mean a lot until I got to, and then suddenly you kind of like, whoa, this guy has been involved in some of the great songs, and how did I not know it? It still surprises me that there are people out there who have created things that have just become such a part of popular culture, yet they themselves aren't famous seemingly in their own right.
If you ask people about to name one Brazilian sort of piece of music, the chances are they'll probably say The Girl from Ipanema, and he wrote the English lyrics for it, which is...
and Happy Days?
And he wrote the theme tunes for Happy Days.
I mean, it's Going for Gold and Happy Days are the two TV themes. So you've got Hans Zimmer on one hand, and then...
I have to also say, again, if you listen to the playlist, we put the theme tune for Laverne and Shirley on the other week, which I don't think I'd ever heard before, and it was really good, and Norman Gimbel wrote the music, wrote the lyrics for that, and for Wonder Woman, the classic Linda Carter Wonder Woman. So yes, an astonishing... body of work, as well as HR Puff and stuff. And finally, Gene Okerlund, who was Mean Gene Okerlund, and was he an interviewer or a sort of announcer in WWE?
In the heyday of the kind of mid-80s to mid-90s, before he then jumped ship to WCW, he effectively was the backstage correspondent. So he did do some actual commentary on the wrestling, but it was more a case of, let's go backstage, Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Hulk Hogan, and then it cut to him in front of a huge WWF emblem, as it was at the time, hyping the main event. And that's one of the key phrases. I know Hulk Hogan's tweeted a tribute to Mean Gene Okerlund, but it was a beautiful relationship really, that Hulk Hogan would say, well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. And that's almost like a catchphrase or a phenomenon within itself. He just happened to be a guy that was working predominantly with the AWA, which fancied itself as a national promotion, but really was a local one that toured a lot. It was never going to become what the WWF actually was. And then the big money offers in the kind of mid-80s were coming in from New York, where WWF was and still is based. And Mean Gene, along with the likes of Hulk Hogan and some other stars, moved over, and then he became a household name because of rock and wrestling in '85. So you had Cyndi Lauper and the wrestling album, Lou Albano, all this cross publicity really, Muhammad Ali, refereeing at WrestleMania, things like that. So yeah, he went to WCW, did some work there, came back to WWE in more recent times. But he's one of those guys that he is a face and voice of many people's youth. A lot of people went through WWF in the kind of mid-80s to early 90s, and Mean Gene Okerlund is a huge part of a lot of people's lives.
Was he in a way the sort of straight man? Was that his role really? Is that something you actually need in wrestling? If everyone else is so outrageous and so overboard, you need someone to sort of keep it controlled.
I think that's a really good way to put it, that he was very much if the villains were stepping out of line, he'd be the kind of the knight in shining armour, if you will, the kind of whiter than white guy who would say, you can't be doing that. And then when he'd appear on set with Hulk Hogan, you could tell that I know you're the superhero, and they bounce off each other like that. So great memories from my youth. Anyone who's watching the Coliseum videos or the silver screen videos of the late 80s and early 90s will know and love him, and God bless him.
Passed away at the age of 76.
It's round, it's purple, it shows you what to view. It's Mike's Big W.
If you didn't think that you'd sat down enough over the past couple of weeks, if you didn't think that you'd watched enough TV or movies over the past couple of weeks, here's Mike Ireland with more reasons to stay at home, unless you have to go to work, in which case do.
Yeah, we cannot say that enough. If you've got to go to work, you really should. And funnily enough, and it's not funny at all because it's quite a downbeat film, I, Daniel Blake, gets its premiere on BBC Two on Saturday night.
Got to hold my hands up. 10. Never heard of it.
It's Ken Loach's one of his more recent efforts, 2016. It came out. Stars the comedian Dave Johns, but he plays a.
Don't know that was that.
He's a Geordie comedian.
Oh, okay.
And he is playing a man who is down on his luck. I'm sort of using generalisations and euphemisms when perhaps I shouldn't. But no, it's a searing look at the benefits system in the UK and the effect that it has on ordinary people and their lives, as you would expect from Ken Loach. It's a film that's got a point of view, and you can agree with it or disagree with it, but it is certainly one that received an awful lot of plaudits. I think it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, although don't necessarily quote me on that. There were awards in the offing for I, Daniel Blake, and it sort of has, to some extent, shaped the discussion around the benefit system ever since it came out a couple of years ago.
What channel again, sorry?
BBC Two.
On?
Saturday night.
At?
9:45.
Channel 2, 945. Or 2145 if you like.
Moving on to...
Just like I talked over it when he said it the first time. People might not have heard.
Moving on to...
I won't talk over you again.
Sunday at...
Freeview Film of the Week.
Sunday at 5:20 on Channel 4.
Channel 4.
If you were listening to Shires and Islands Christmas Presents, do we even refer to Shires and Islands Christmas Presents, or is it something?
Yeah,
like
it's not like it's like another universe or whatever. It's still us, or is it?
You may have heard my musical stylings while dressed as a nun. Well, if that floated your boat, Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit is on.
It's almost as good as Mike rapping. Almost.
Is on Sunday on Channel 4, which of course sees Whoopi Goldberg back as, now what is it, Sister Mary Clarence?
Sister Mary Clarence is her assumed name, yeah.
Going back to the, what is it, it's nun-run community school.
Yeah, because in the first film they're very much in a convent.
Yes.
Whereas by the time the second film comes around, they've now relocated and are doing more community outreach work.
And it's going to be shut down, and they've got to, as per usual in this sort of thing, put on a show to keep the group together. But you do get early performances as well, as obviously from the likes of Maggie Smith coming back alongside Whoopi Goldberg, but early performances from Lauren Hill and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yeah, very much so. So you'd have thought I would have planned ahead. Moving on to Film 4 on Sunday at 6:25.
Film 4 is channel number 8.
This is one of those things where Thomas is laughing, and I'm not entirely. I know I've said something, but I'm not entirely sure what I've said. It's channel number 15, and it's back to back Snow White and the Huntsman. Also, I suppose more back to back Huntsman, really, because he's in both. Snow White and the Huntsman on 6:25, followed directly by The Huntsman Winter's War, which I saw last year, and I've now seen both of them.
And you said sequel prequel as well, didn't you?
Yes. Not that taken with it. It really does try and be Frozen. And look, I'm not a fan of Frozen, but I think I'll probably say Frozen is the better film, and I haven't even seen it. But it does have a very good turn from Charlize Theron, although she's only in it at the very end. So you've got to wait for that. Moving on to More 4, channel number...
probably just have a 4 in it. More 4 is channel number 37.
14.
Oof. Does have a 4 in it.
On Sunday at 10 p.m. Have you caught the BBC's Les Miserables?
I haven't. What happens is, because we're quite sensitive in my house about what we watch, my mum watches all the programmes, all the shows. And what she does is
tells you
she sends reviews to my wife by text message. Saying, watched part 1, like Vanity Fair, for example. We thought, we like the look of that, but will it be a bit racy, raunchy, all that kind of stuff. But my wife received a text message saying that part 1 of Les Mis was good, other than a bedroom scene, but it was after the fact and brief. But what we'll do is we'll wait for the other reviews, because the last thing you want to do is watch part 1 and then find out that it all gets, very...
But going
in the next, other parts.
Other parts are available. Going to the point that I was trying to raise. Do you like it when you get channels cross-pollinating?
Or where you might have, say, part 1 or film 1 on one channel, then film 2 on another channel?
Even more with this, that More 4 are putting Les Miserables the musical on right after Les Miserables the TV adaptation.
Nice.
on the same night.
Not the Liam Neeson version, because that's not musical, is it?
No, it isn't. I think that's on Sony Movie Channel at some point. But no, I quite like it when channels sort of acknowledge that other channels have clearly created a moment So yes, that's Sunday on More 4 at 10 p.m. Moving on to Monday, 12:05 in the morning. So
there's an incoming call from Anonymous. Shall I pick it up?
Okay.
Okay. Hello, HWD Hospital Radio. Hello? Is that Anonymous? Bye.
Was that the hacking group Anonymous?
I don't. It just said all it said on the screen was Anonymous, but they didn't want to speak.
Well, I suppose they wouldn't give the voice away, wouldn't it? So moving on to Entrapment, appropriately enough, and that's Sean Connery in his last stellar outing, really.
Whoa! League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Extraordinary's in the title.
Yeah, never has a film been more inaccurately named. And Catherine Zeta-Jones in one of her star-making roles, probably the star-making role for Catherine Zeta-Jones. Have you caught Entrapment?
I saw it at the cinema.
Did you?
I remember.
Which cinema?
I think at that time, Cineworld Wakefield. Okay. I might want to go for. Yeah, it'd been the early days Cineworld Wakefield, and it was nice to see Sean Connery doing something kind of Bond-esque as an older chap, and Catherine Zeta-Jones and lasers. Say no more.
Would that pass muster in terms of the review?
Oh, from the text message from Mum?
The text message from Mum review.
A little bit edgy.
Okay. Now, going on to a film that I know Mrs. Shires does like, The Three Musketeers.
Yes, has them on DVD.
So they were talking about the 1973 Richard Lester ones.
Not the 3D one.
I watched the first two again late last year, and I have to say they really do stand up. There's some very sharp.
Well, otherwise there'll be no good fighting people on the knees, will there?
They are very sharp as regards the quality of the wit and entertainment, and I also quite like it when sword fighting looks bloody hard, because it should be. But we're going to end by pointing out that the Harry Potter franchise, its latest TV instalment is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and is getting shown
Network premiere.
Network premiere. Again, it's one of those things where, why wasn't it shown over Christmas?
It would be the perfect. There's something, even though it's not a Christmas film, anything magical seems to. There's a correlation, some synergy there.
If they got the rights, why didn't they put it on a fortnight earlier? Is what I'm wondering. I don't understand when networks do. It was the other year that the BBC put Avengers: Age of Ultron on I think it was something like the 5th of January, and it made no sense whatsoever. But that's on Saturday night on. On ITV, all through the week on ITV.
Channel 3.
All through the week on ITV, they're showing Harry Potter films of an evening. But our Freeview film of the week is on Thursday on ITV4.
ITV4, channel number 24.
Correct.
And I only know that because I'm making highlights packages for this show, and I got it wrong twice in a row on one I listened to quite recently. I finally learned my lesson.
ITV4, Thursday, 9 p.m.
Also, the shock on your face then.
You
don't believe in me, do you?
Someone listens.
I'll show you. I'll show all of you.
It's the best Bond film of all time. Tomorrow Never Dies. Second instalment with Pierce Brosnan. It's got Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane, as a Bond girl, and it's also got a professional who is just doing a job. They're just professionals doing a job!
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
It is a mash.
It is a movie mash.
A movie mash.
A movie mash up.
It is a mash.
It is a movie mash.
A movie mash.
A movie mash up.
It is a mash.
Doomed planet. Desperate scientists. Last hope. Arrogant genius. Extravagant billionaire. Cocky playboy. Egomaniac philanthropist. But can humanity's reluctant alien alloy protect his adopted world from foes who are sure to test his mettle? Brought to you by visionary director Zack Snyder and starring Robert Downey Jr., stretching himself by basically playing himself.
This is good. Iron Man of Steel.
Like it?
Yeah.
I
mentally, it works in so many ways.
I can see that one. as a film. Like an arthropod equivalent of a fish out of water, this hilarious 80s-infused adventure comedy sees a pampered African prince try to set up in the mean streets of New York, deal with all the challenges of high school, try to find the perfect date, and stop an ambitious avian threat to the throne. Directed by John Landis and featuring the hilarious stars of Trading Places and Mr. Mom.
Right, so is that coming to America?
It is coming to America.
Right, the rest of it, no idea. So just
arthropod equivalent of a fish out of water.
All right, so
high school.
High school with either with coming or America. America.
Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom. America Sweethearts. Coming to America Sweethearts.
No,
coming to.
That's quite good though. I do quite like. Is
the Homecoming? Spider-Man Homecoming. To America.
Yeah, what really works about it, I hadn't realised until I was checking up about coming to America. Both of them are set in Queens.
Nice, yeah.
So they really do line up well together, those two films. A bittersweet coming-of-age drama about teens living in a world that hates and fears them. It was a summer these youngsters would never forget, except for Scott, who disappears halfway through the movie, as they searched the woods for a serum, dealt with their fiery internal torments, and had all manner of fun playing chess and running along bridges. With frenemies like these, you won't cry, no, you won't shed a tear. It's the juggernaut of a movie.
Nice. X-Men, The Last Stand By Me.
And closing it out for this week for movie mashups. From the mind of a comic book legend and real-life wizard comes a dystopian political sports thriller where the greatest fighter in the world, fresh from toppling a foreign totalitarian regime, has to overcome an evil closer to home and a protege turned rival of his own creation. Remember, his ring is outside.
So that's Rocky V.
Yes.
Right. Right, just go back to it because there's a lot of information there. So I've got Rocky V.
From the mind of a comic book legend and real-life wizard.
Real-life wizard.
Comes a dystopian political sports thriller.
Rocky V for Vendetta.
Yes, it is.
Don't look, it's Mike Island.
What he's doing is make a clever joke there about the fact that my visage is not pleasant to the face eye.
Also, your beard is looking very... Is it voluminous or voluminous? What's the word?
Well, I don't think the word's ever used as regards beards, but voluminous.
Voluminous, yeah. It's happening.
We're talking...
Bushy.
In a very indirect way about Bird Box, which is the new Sandra Bullock film available on Netflix. It's only been available for just over a week. And Netflix don't usually talk about ratings and viewing figures.
Unless they're really good.
Yeah, unless they're quite pleased.
Probably a bit like this programme.
And they've revealed that in the first 7 days of its... Is it uploaded?
Yeah, it's still a release, isn't it?
45 million accounts have viewed it in under 7 days. Now, it turns out that they categorise a view as, I think, someone that watches 70% of the film's runtime, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Also, it doesn't talk about how many people are actually signing into accounts to watch it. Yeah, because
I'd have that. Having a Netflix account myself, you can have multiple profiles. So it's one account with a handful of profiles, which means that, does that mean that it's just, is it the umbrella account that's signed in? Or could you have actually 4 or 5 different people signing on one account? So effectively, you could maybe quadruple that number.
So Netflix being, do you think, intentionally nebulous on
Yes, so it could be 45 million, but it could be a lot more than that.
Yeah, but in that case, wouldn't they say that?
If they know, which I'm sure they do.
They must know. It's also the first time that they've ever released figures like these, any sorts of figures, for a film of their own making. Do you think that is...
It's a move of sorts, isn't it?
It's a
Steven Spielberg... Has he had anything to say about it?
I don't know, but I'm sure we can hear him tutting even across the pond. Of course, Netflix dominating the news media of late for reasons that we're going to come on to in just a second. But there have been some negative consequences of this enormous success for the Sandra Bullock film, which is all about a dystopian world.
It's a quiet place, really.
It's a quiet
where
place
you don't want to look at anything.
Yeah, because she's leading two children who are something referred to as boy and girl, and they've all got to wear blindfolds because there are evil forces out there. Do you want to go into it any more specifically than that?
From what I understand, if you see one of these things, it shows you your greatest fear, and then on account of that, you try and get away from your greatest fear, but in doing so, you effectively die.
Yes, I think the director has spoken this week and said that it was a challenge to make the film. It's Susan Beer, I should say, who's directed it. A challenge to make the film because everyone has different fears, and they also wanted to keep what people were actually seeing from the viewer. So, and I don't know whether this counts as a spoiler or not. It's never actually revealed what they're looking at. I suppose they talk about what they can see, but we never actually see it.
It's all suggestion and smoke and mirrors.
So maintaining that suspense is quite a big challenge. But it has had knock-on effects that, as I say, are somewhat unfortunate, because there's a meme travelling around, and I suppose if you've got 45 million people possibly watching your film, it's going to be some social media reaction. But there's a bird box challenge, which is basically people challenging one another to wear blindfolds and go around their daily lives.
Right.
And people are ending up quite seriously hurt.
People seriously, like driving and stuff?
I don't think they're driving, but yeah.
Crossing roads, and what are you doing, people?
There's one video that's been viewed 15,000 times on Twitter of a man leading a blindfolded baby into a wall. Yeah, it's... Is this sort of thing that makes you fear for the human race more than Skynet?
I mean, I don't know if the Darwin Awards still exist, but it does make you wonder, doesn't it, about the psyche of certain individuals.
But then will Netflix be quietly thinking,
any publicity is
good publicity, and it shows that we can have an impact into walls.
There's only one choice, and that, of course, is the Shires Now agenda, or many of our other great programmes and output. But if there was more than one choice, it'd probably be Netflix. There's a diagram as well. Have you seen the diagram? There's a flowchart.
And all roads lead to Netflix.
Well, just showing the options from this programme.
All right, okay. I'm looking forward to looking at said flowchart. But if you have downloaded, do you download it? Do you stream it?
You stream, but you can.
I should have listened to the jingle.
You can download on Netflix to watch offline.
Okay.
I don't know if it's all programs, but there are programs that you can take with you.
Would you feel annoyed if you were downloading something, streaming it, and content was being denied you?
Why is it being denied? Have I not paid enough for it? What's the issue?
It's because in the new Choose Your Own Adventure, that in effect is Black Mirror Bandersnatch, there are options that you apparently can't see. There are Easter eggs that are virtually impossible, and I think they're even suggesting golden eggs that may never actually be uncovered.
It's virtually impossible, though, but it could happen.
I suppose it could be.
All sounds a little bit Ready Player One, which is a film that apparently has been out at some point this year, last year.
It's Schrodinger's film.
Spielberg likes it, though.
He really, really does. But the director of Bandersnatch, which, as I say, is sort of dominating the media at the moment, said that there are scenes that some people just will never see, and we had to choose to make sure that we were okay with that. Again, if you're a filmmaker, is that something that you are all
Yeah, I guess my issue would be that how good are these scenes? Because if the quality is really good, or it's a really intriguing idea, then surely as an artist, I suppose, is art in the performance? Is it in the beholding of it, or is it just in the creation of it?
I don't know, but I'm thinking if art is about choice, and choices an artist makes, choice is about options, and if you're creating a drama that is full of options that the viewer, the one perceiving it, can choose, then therefore you've got to be able to reconcile yourself to there'll be some that viewers will choose not to see. I suppose.
But then it's like no one likes putting stuff out there that no one watches. We know that. We're the proprietors of the Shires Now network.
So have you been following the whole Bandersnatch story?
I've seen flowcharts.
Story in the media. 5 different endings, apparently. Although there are lots of ways you can get to those particular endings, and I think there are endings that sort of branch off from them, but there's sort of 5 basic endings. The story follows a young programmer who begins to question his reality as he adapts a sprawling fantasy novel into a video game and faces a mind-mangling, as they term it, challenge. It's got some inspiration from Lewis Carroll's work, because of course
Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One.
And also there was a game called The Bandersnatch that was supposed to be coming out in 1984, but the company, Imagine Software, filed for bankruptcy just as they were about to release the game, and ironically it was in 1984, and people have been talking about Orwell in 1984 because that sort of plays a part in it, because there are questions about free will and control, alternate realities, different timelines.
Is it for all the family?
I was going to say, even if you don't watch it, is there something admirable about this is the most popular thing in the world at the moment, it would appear, and that it is actually something that's quite high concept?
Yeah, although I worry the fact that can something be too popular? And the irony is...
That's a sort of Black Mirror question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the irony, that this is almost kind of a Matrix-type situation of everyone's plugging into the same thing, and I think that's quite... It's The Incredibles 2. Are you aware of...
I haven't seen it.
Is it Screen Slave? I've only seen the trailers. I've got it to watch. I just haven't got around to it yet this Christmas period. But yeah, I think there's something terribly great and terribly worrying about lots of people plugging in effectively to the same content.
It sounds like Bandersnatch for you. You're listening to the Shires and Island Journey.
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my agenda.
So, when Netflix was really first making its mark on the industry and the idea that it was going to be creating its own content, one of the real breakthrough successes for it was Stranger Things, which is a anthology. It's not an anthology series. It's a series set in a small town in the mid-1980s in Indiana, in the United States, and there are strange doings are transpiring, and very much influenced by the works of movie mogul Steven Spielberg, who doesn't seem to be very happy, according to Thomas, a lot of the time, and Stephen King. A lot of sort of, as I say, very strong 1980s references. First season, incredibly popular and incredibly critically acclaimed. Second season, a bit more of a mixed bag in terms of the reception it got. Well, New Year's Eve marked the teaser for the forthcoming series, which I think is going to be 20 months since the second series was released, and it's going to be released on the 1st of July. 4th of July, because it's going for a whole Independence Day sort of theme. Is it something that would float your boat?
I always worry, because, like I say, Bandersnatch sounds great, Stranger Things sounds fantastic. I really want to get involved in these kind of things.
Is it the nostalgia thing, by the way, that is the interesting thing about Stranger Things? It really has sort of brought into a sort of 1980s look, and it seems to be the 1980s sort of having a moment. I'm wondering, is it a sort of generational thing? Is it our generation remembering the films and the pop culture of the era and seeing them reflected?
You have to have style and substance. So going back to Ready Player One, had an awful lot of style but very little substance, stuff we'd seen all before. So if Stranger Things can take that nostalgia and throw it together with great storytelling and acting, then there's no wonder that it's been the phenomenon that it has. I just worry, for me, as a sensitive little flower that I am, is it my kind of thing?
Well, you'll find out when it comes back in July of 2019.
Welcome back. You've been heading for Venus all night, Mike. Are you ready for the final round?
May old acquaintance be forgot.
For tonight's grand prize, a smooch come midnight, your category is New Year's. To celebrate the arrival of 2019, all you have to do is name the following movies featuring New Year's. There are bonus points for knowing all the words to Auld Lang Syne, and this round may contain spoilers. The quiz ends with confetti and party blowers. Are you ready to begin?
Hooray!
Happy New Year! Begin. I'm dreaming of a New Year's love triangle, just like the ones I used to know.
New Year's love triangle. It's not the film New Year's Eve, is it?
I'm dreaming of a New Year's love triangle, just like the ones I used...
Does White Christmas feature it?
No, the film that White Christmas wants to be.
Holiday Inn.
They're back, and as sequels go, this is an oil painting.
Oil painting. Is it Ghostbusters 2?
Many oranges, 2 gorillas, 2 dukes, and a Valentine at New Year's.
Trading Places. Or The Godfather, because there's lots of oranges.
Are they really in love, or is it just an Empire state of mind? See you in 6 months.
6 months, see you in 6 months. Empire state of mind. Sleepers in Seattle?
The film that inspired that whole sequence is an original film.
Little Shop Around the Corner. Is it the shop Around the Corner? No, that I saw. Inspired that. Sleepers in Seattle. I'm not sure.
There's a slight irony that you can't recall this one because it was.
I'm only sleep. You were sleeping. I was while you were sleeping. Someone was asleep.
An affair to remember. Next, the eye is open and the atomic clock is ticking. Who can save us?
It's the Doctor Who TV movie.
96.
The atomic clock.
A mother does her best despite her fair share of challenges.
Is it mermaids?
Revolution in Cuba. Revolution in the family. Where's my sequel prequel? It's here.
Godfather Part 2.
$8 million. A Big Mac. And a shot of Welsh gin.
Welsh gin. $8 million. What's $8 million? Welsh gin. It's not whiskey galore.
We mentioned it earlier.
Is it Welsh gin? Big Mac.
Welsh, a Big Mac. That's little B, big M. And a Welsh character who in the film's called Gin.
Welsh character?
Well, she's a Welsh actress.
It's Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's Entrapment. Is it Entrapment? Is that something for New Year's Eve? Oh, is it Kuala Lumpur? Is it Kuala Lumpur?
Yes, Kuala Lumpur. It's the big raid, isn't it? Yeah. New Year starts with a bang. Or should that be a smash? The ship's going down.
Tomorrow Never Dies? The ship's going down. Titanic wasn't a New Year, was it?
No.
Start the smash. Poseidon Adventure. It's Poseidon Adventure. Also set at Christmas as well.
And finally, Jake's messed up, but not as messed up as being surrounded, outnumbered, and betrayed by his own.
Jake? Who's Jake?
There's an original film by the original Halloween's creator and director, and there's a more recent remake.
The Thing?
It's about, so he's surrounded, he's in a place, he's surrounded by other people, and it's all about the attack on that location.
Escape to New York.
Oh no, but well, John Carpenter, you're right there, but it's not that one, it's another one he did.
Escape from LA. No,
it's agenda number 13, that might help.
Friday the 13th?
No, that's a different horror
13 Ghosts?
It's about an attack on...
Attack of the Clones.
Where do cops work? What do they call them in America? Oh, he's down at the...
Taking of Pelham 123.
There's no 2 in it, there's only 1 and a 3. It's something 13.
13 going on 30.
So, think of another word for attack.
Battle.
Military term.
Battle.
There's a Jerry Anderson series about
Assault on
space
Precinct
cops.
13.
Mike Hyland, it's now 2020, and you are a winner!
Do you want to do the BAFTAs, by the way?
What about him?
Black Panther, you said about the Rising Star, but you don't want to mention that.
It is for Black Mirror, though, that she got it, isn't it? It's for a Black Mirror episode. Because they've billed it like, she's the star from Black Panther, but it's not a Black Panther nomination. I'm pretty sure it's for something else.
Was nominated for an no. She's been nominated for the BAFTA Rising Star, and I don't think that specifies. However, it does say that she's been nominated as well for an Emmy.
Right. So it's a general award for being in good stuff.
Yes. So it's up to you whether you want to mention it or not.
Yeah. Sorry, because I've recorded this whole bit, so it's done. I thought it was going to be more of a struggle today because Christmas and New Year, a bit of a lull, but it's been all right, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've had secret franchises now. Secret recordings.
Yeah.
Do you feel violated?
No, I feel pretty, oh so pretty.
Until next time, take care.
Bye, everybody.